Assistants use the employee entrance. Prepare 12 cups of coffee. Charles Whitman pulled the documents from Maya's hands. He did not know that the woman he had just dismissed would soon decide who was allowed to keep a seat at the table. Cold morning fog covered Denver. Outside the executive floor elevator at Alderidge Energy, Samuel Cross stumbled and dropped his documents across the floor. Maya Reynolds immediately knelt to help him. She wore a simple business suit and carried only an old engineering notebook under one arm. "Thank you, Dr. Reynolds. Chairman Cross." Charles approached and interrupted him. Seeing Maya holding Samuel's papers, he automatically assumed that she was the new assistant and pulled the documents away from her. Assistants use the employee entrance. Prepare 12 cups of coffee. Maya answered calmly, "I am here to attend the meeting." "You are not being paid to speak." Charles entered the conference room and closed the door in her face. Maya was still holding one page Samuel had dropped. A fold concealed most of the text, revealing only the board seal and the words, Resolution 7B. Helen Brooks called Samuel into a private room to confirm the final terms. The candidate's identity had to remain confidential until the resolution passed. Samuel had time to say only, "Please wait for me." A message from Helen appeared on Maya's phone. "The final vote is ready." Maya placed the resolution page inside her notebook beside a red flash drive resting among battery sketches. On her way toward the service area, a manager struck a cart and continued walking. Lena Ortiz struggled to hold a battery container while sensors rolled across the floor. Maya steadied the cart and helped her collect the equipment. The battery display flashed a red temperature warning. "This temperature exceeds the testing limit," Maya said. Lena quickly covered the screen. "My supervisor ordered me not to mention it again. They said the warning appeared because I entered the data incorrectly." Maya noticed the testing account name on the display but did not question her yet. "Back up the log before restarting the system. Do not allow the original data to be overwritten." Lena looked up, surprised by the knowledge of someone she had also assumed was an assistant. Maya helped the cafeteria employees prepare 12 cups of coffee so they would not be blamed. When an older worker tried to lift a heavy tray, she took it from him and pulled out a chair so he could rest. She carried the coffee into the conference room. Charles did not look at her. He pushed a stack of documents toward the edge of the table. "Copy the restructuring plan, then wait outside." The copier jammed. The young assistant beside it turned pale. "Mr. Whitman will deduct the cost from my pay. This machine has broken 3 times this week." Maya opened the cover, removed the torn paper, and adjusted the roller. "An old machine failing is not your fault. Do not sign any statement accepting responsibility if it does not tell the truth." The restructuring plan made her stop. 380 positions would be eliminated, and Lena's research department would be dissolved. The financial model relied on figures from a power station that was no longer operating, exaggerating the projected savings. Near the bottom of the table was expected income from strategic intellectual property. One technical sentence made Maya tighten her grip around the red flash drive. That exact language had appeared only in a confidential proposal once sent to Reynolds Grid Technologies. Maya carried the copied documents into the conference room. "The model uses data from the East Ridge station, but that station is no longer operating. Once those figures are removed, the savings will not cover the cost of eliminating these jobs." Charles could have asked how she knew. Instead, he laughed. "Being able to read a spreadsheet does not turn an assistant into an engineer." Several executives laughed with him. Ethan Park did not. He studied the figures, recognized that Maya was correct, then immediately lowered his eyes. Maya pointed toward the intellectual property section. This language belongs to a confidential proposal. Who gave North Peak access to it? Charles' expression changed for a moment. Security, remove her. She is handling board-level documents without authorization. Maya did not resist. Before leaving, she looked at Ethan. Do you also believe these numbers? Ethan avoided her eyes. Maya sat in the employee chair outside the conference room, with her notebook resting on her knees. The door remained closed while Charles continued presenting the layoff plan as though nothing had happened. Through the glass wall, she watched executives nod over a decision that would determine the future of hundreds of families. Several minutes later, Samuel and Helen returned. Samuel looked at the empty chair at the head of the table. Where is Dr. Reynolds? Charles answered confidently. I returned your assistant to her proper place. The room became silent. Samuel slowly walked to the head of the table, pulled out the president's chair, and ordered the door opened. Maya was still sitting in the hallway. Samuel stood before the entire board. Dr. Maya Reynolds, please take your proper seat, Madam President. The coffee cup in Charles's hand stopped in midair. None of the executives were laughing now. Maya entered and placed Resolution 7B and the red flash drive on the table. She did not sit down. She did not look at Charles to enjoy the reversal. Her eyes remained on the plan to eliminate 380 jobs. Before I accept this position, Maya said, I want to know who gave North Peak access to my patent. Charles stared at the red flash drive. The color disappeared from his face. He finally understood that the woman he had humiliated was not only the new leader of Alderidge Energy, she was also the owner of the technology he had been secretly trying to take. Charles stared at the red flash drive as Helen confirmed that Resolution 7B had passed by an overwhelming majority. Samuel formally transferred executive authority to Maya. Miss Reynolds, Charles said, trying to regain his composure, the coffee incident was only a harmless misunderstanding. Maya did not ask him to apologize. Do you often judge employees according to their clothing and job titles? Charles looked toward the service workers clearing the trays. Leaders cannot waste time on people who are not important enough. An older employee stopped working. Maya looked at him, then turned back toward the board. The plan to eliminate 380 positions is suspended for 72 hours. Every email, technical record, and financial file must be preserved. Helen will appoint an independent audit team. Mr. Whitman has not been found responsible for any wrongdoing and will have the full right to respond. Helen connected the red flash drive to an isolated computer. The files showed that North Peak had offered to purchase the entire Alder cell patent for a fraction of its independent valuation. One message used technical language that appeared only inside confidential Alderidge documents. Charles folded his arms. North Peak is an independent company. The real problem is that you now lead Alderidge while owning the technology it needs. That is a conflict of interest. You must remove yourself from this meeting. I will remove myself from every negotiation, price vote, and licensing decision involving the patent, Maya answered. But we must still investigate who leaked the information and who altered the technical reports. Charles had not expected her to limit her own authority. He remained silent as Maya left the room and walked toward the former research department. Lena was placing her tools inside a cardboard box. A decision blaming her for the false warning had already been placed on the table before the examination was complete. "I ordered your position protected," Maya said. Lena did not appear grateful. "You can afford to wait for complete evidence. People like me can be dismissed before you find it." The words stopped Maya. The patience of someone with power could become a danger to someone who had no way to protect herself. "You are right. I apologize for not intervening sooner." Maya signed an order protecting Lena from retaliation during the investigation. This order remains effective whether you possess additional evidence or not. Lena studied the signature, then opened a locked cabinet. She removed a copy of the system log. The heat warning report had been changed at 2:14 in the morning through an administrative account connected to Charles's office. "The log proves the account was used," Maya said, "but it does not prove who personally made the change." "I know, that is why I did not release it." Maya found Ethan Park inside the laboratory, he admitted. "Charles threatened to close the research department unless I signed the revised report. I kept the original, but I am not ready to testify. If I lose my career, I will have nothing left." "Your silence is already causing other people to lose their careers," Maya answered. She did not pressure him to surrender documents outside the proper process. "When you are ready to tell the truth, take the original report to Helen." Inside the legal office, Helen was waiting with another discovery. Charles had concealed a major loss from a natural gas project. The plan to eliminate 380 positions had been designed to cover the shortage before the company released its financial results. A list provided by Nora Mitchell also showed that many of the targeted employees had previously raised concerns about safety and data integrity. Maya met Charles privately in the presence of an independent attorney. "This is your final opportunity to explain your connection to North Peak and voluntarily release the records." Charles leaned back in his chair. "I have no connection to that company. I will not allow you to search through my private life so you can force Alderidge to purchase your technology. By this afternoon, the shareholders will understand that you came here to enrich yourself. I have removed myself from every patent decision." The public does not read legal meeting records. They only need one suspicion that sounds convincing. 1 hour before the leadership announcement, reporters received a complaint accusing Maya of manipulating her appointment so she could sell Aldercell to Alderidge. Charles demanded that the board suspend her on her first day. Outside the auditorium, hundreds of employees and shareholders had gathered. Questions could be heard through the doors. Was Maya the person who had come to save Alderidge, or an inventor using her position to sell the company her own technology? Maya looked at the news screen. Her face appeared beside the words, "Conflict of interest." She did not respond with an angry statement. She instructed Helen to release every ownership disclosure Maya had submitted, beginning with the first interview round. At that moment, Helen received the corporate tracing report. North Peak had been registered through several layers of legal entities, but the final beneficiary was connected to a trust managed by Charles's brother. The office door opened. Ethan entered carrying a sealed hard drive. "This is the original technical report," he said. "I signed the revised version. I am prepared to explain why." In the hallway, the event host announced that the auditorium was ready. Helen handed Maya the North Peak report, while Ethan placed the hard drive beside the red flash drive. Maya looked toward the stage doors. Only hours after being addressed as Madam President, she now had to face hundreds of people who doubted her, and she had to prove that the person who came to save Alderidge was not secretly trying to purchase it from within. The stage doors opened. Maya stepped before hundreds of employees, shareholders, and reporters waiting for answers. She placed the red flash drive on the podium and faced the cameras without hesitation. "I own the Aldercell patent," she said. "I will not participate in price negotiations, vote on any licensing agreement, or reject a valuation established by an independent panel." Charles stood at the opposing table. "The layoffs are necessary to save Alderidge. Seeking access to the technology through North Peak was simply a business strategy. Miss Reynolds is using a misunderstanding in the conference room to remove a rival." Maya looked toward the cup of coffee still sitting on the front table. "If the only problem were a cup of coffee, I could let it go. But hundreds of families cannot survive on an apology." Samuel confirmed that the board had evaluated Maya's recovery plan for several months before appointing her. Helen released records showing that Maya had disclosed her ownership of Aldercell during the first interview round. The board had approached Maya because Alderidge needed a new direction. The screen then displayed North Peak's corporate structure. Behind several layers of registered entities, the final beneficiary was linked to a trust managed by Charles's brother. Lena appeared with the system log. "The heat warning report was changed at 2:14 in the morning after I submitted my complaint, through an administrative account belonging to Mr. Whitman's office." Helen emphasized that the record alone did not prove Charles had personally made the change. At that moment, Ethan placed the sealed hard drive on the table. "This is the original report. The heat warning was removed from the version I signed." He took a deep breath. Charles threatened to close the research department. "But I am not an innocent victim. My signature made the false report appear legitimate." Nora presented the list of 380 employees selected for dismissal. Many had previously reported concerns involving safety or data integrity. The auditors confirmed that the reductions had been designed to conceal losses from the natural gas project before the company released its financial results. Charles received the full opportunity to respond. He admitted supporting North Peak, but claimed it was the only way to keep the technology under control and prevent Alderidge from collapsing. Maya asked, "If you believed your actions were right, why did you conceal the ownership of the intermediary company?" Charles looked at the corporate chart on the screen. "Because the market does not understand difficult decisions. Or because the workers would understand too clearly who was being forced to pay for them?" Charles did not answer directly. After the attorneys completed their presentations, the board voted before the employees and shareholders. Charles was removed as acting chief executive officer and immediately lost access to the company's systems. Every transaction involving North Peak was frozen. The records were transferred to forensic auditors and regulatory authorities. No one declared him guilty of a crime inside the auditorium. Any civil or criminal responsibility would be determined through the investigation. Charles left without speaking. The documents he had concealed and the choices he had made had taken away the power he had fought to preserve. Maya returned to the podium. "I cannot promise that every position will remain unchanged regardless of our financial condition, but we will not save Alderidge by sacrificing innocent people." She announced the recovery plan. Unpaid executive bonuses would be canceled. Unsuccessful investments would be sold. Forced layoffs would be suspended, and most affected employees would be transferred into the Clean Battery program. Workers would receive paid training. A new oversight council would include engineers, employees, and community representatives. Whenever reductions became unavoidable, affected workers would receive legal guidance and transparent terms. To resolve the conflict of interest, Reynolds Grid granted Alderidge a non-exclusive license to use Aldercell at a price established by an independent third party. Part of the royalty income would be reinvested in research and employee training. Maya retained ownership of her invention, but she did not use her position to force the company to accept her price. Before retiring, Samuel apologized publicly. "I trusted the system too much and allowed a culture of fear to grow under my leadership." He remained only for a limited transition period and kept no voting rights or hidden authority. 6 months later, the former research department was filled with light again. After a transparent selection process, Lena was appointed head of the testing team and received compensation for the retaliation she had suffered. Ethan was demoted, formally reviewed, and required to cooperate with the investigation. He was allowed to continue working as an engineer, but he no longer had authority to approve reports by himself. The first Aldercell battery production run passed independent testing. Hundreds of employees moved into the new manufacturing program, while Nora received a permanent seat on the Workforce Transition Council. One afternoon, Maya walked through the hallway where she had once been ordered to wait. The older service employee was pushing a document cart toward the main entrance. Maya stopped and held the door open for him. "Madam President, am I allowed to use this entrance?" he asked. Maya smiled. "This entrance belongs to all of us." They walked inside together. Maya's old notebook and the red flash drive still rested on her desk. The woman who had once been pushed outside the conference room had gained more than a seat at the table. She had changed what power meant for everyone who walked through that door. Because justice is not taking the place of the person who once humiliated you. It is using your new authority to make sure no one else suffers the same injustice.